You're preparing to see 280 patients, 280 different scenarios and cases. It is a difficult journey and it is a difficult exam, but you are capable. If you're at the point where you're getting ready to take step, then you have more than proved yourself. Right now, you're just fine-tuning. Bonjour and welcome to my video on tips and strategies to help optimize your USMLE Step 1 score. In this video, I will be sharing the medicine's way, and as always, comments and friendly conversations are welcome down below. Before we begin, I just have to take a second to congratulate you. If you're watching this video as a Step 1 taker, please take me off at 2 speed or 1.5 speed, and I want you to hear me clearly when I say that you are smart, you are talented, and you are gifted. You made it here because of your knowledge. Believe in yourself and believe in your preparation. The motivation for me to make this video is because generational guidance is something that was lacking for me, and I know a lot of my colleagues that did not have generational guidance. Now, don't be the first medical doctor in my family, so guidance down this particular path I didn't have. I had to figure all of this out on my own, and if you are like that, here is your guidance. Continue to watch my channel, and I will try to post videos as often as I can. First tip: stop social media, and I mean right now. Get off of there, get off of there, get off of there. Whatever you think that you're missing, it'll be there when you return. Cleanse all of your distractions, unless if they're genuinely something that makes you feel good. If going on social media makes you feel good, then by all means continue to go. But if you're doing something that makes you feel bad, such as drinking alcohol every night, you have to cut it out during dedicated, because you do not have time to be anything other than focused. So I moved away from my family. I actually came to Miami by myself so that I can study for dedicated alone. I needed it. Speaking about family, this is my other tip. Be nice to your loved ones. Hard to get your mom to understand that, no mom, I'm taking an exam right now. Can you please not pick up the phone? Or can you please not pick up the phone to call somebody that you just spoke to 2 minutes ago? For me personally, it was a very confusing time emotionally. It's if I wanted to be smothered with love, but I also didn't want anybody around, and I wanted to be unbothered. It doesn't make any sense, and it's not realistic expectations of others. Another tip: recommend studying in a very comfortable spot. You should not be at the desk all day if it makes you feel uncomfortable. I never actually tidied up my spot. I know a lot of people say, oh, tidy up your spot at night so the next day you start over with a clear mind, but I kind of liked having everything around me to just wake up and start again where I left off. I did my dedicated schedule. There was no videos. There were no videos at all. Even when I found something that tripped me up, I did not do the video. I would go to first aid first. It's reading it in first aid, 3 seconds or less, understanding it, familiarizing myself with what's in first aid, because I know I've seen it before. Getting that visual aid that you can see the page and all the things that are associated with it. Not go back and write and copy all of the sketchy videos and watch penicillin all over again, or Staph aureus all over again. You know that information, you've seen it already, move on. But if you got like a virus wrong, then just go ahead and pull out that video and just watch that video. Okay, now it is time to talk about time management. Management is different than having a schedule. I don't believe in schedules. What I did was, I knew what I was doing for that day. I knew that I needed to get through 120 U-World questions, and I needed to get through deja review. That is as far as my scheduling went, because those are the only 2 things that I did during dedicated. All the other notorious resources I feel like should be finished before dedicated. You do not have time to go through 10,000 Anki cards during dedicated. And if you want to, more power to you, but it's going to definitely mean that you sacrifice time elsewhere, which would probably be sleep. Talk about time management. I mean using your time wisely. Let's say you finished 1 block of U-World. You just finished 40 questions, and now your brain is kind of foggy and you need a break. Maybe switch to cooking, or maybe switch to doing deja review, or maybe switch to reviewing your notes. Do something that is still productive, but just change what you're doing. Because sometimes you find yourself getting googly eyes over reading first aid, but you can watch a sketchy video and feel great. Fundamentals are important in order to build on your knowledge, in order to use UWorld as a supplemental tool. Before you can use those resources, I highly recommend to take an NBME exam and to see where you fall. The NBME exam, the first one that you take as your baseline, and then you build from there, and you should steadily see improvement. If you do not see improvements, then you need to change up your strategies. And I'm hoping that this strategy that I will share with you will help you see improvements each and every exam that you take. I would recommend doing NBMEs every 2 weeks. Ideally every week, be in pretty good shape in terms of exposure. Again, it's not about like dragging all of the playlist over and finishing everything. So you don't have to finish all the NBME exams. And in terms of UWorld Self-Assessment 1 and 2, I took UWorld Self-Assessment 1 at the beginning of my dedicated, and I did UWorld Self-Assessment 2 at the end. 2 I did during my buffer days. And I wanted a score thing after I had finished UWorld and gone over all the things that I did not know. Assessment exams are designed to make you think a little deeper. Typically don't second guess myself. In that second, if it looks a little weird, I try to find the best answer choice. And if it's something I need to come back to, I will mark it and move on. When you have narrowed it down to 2, it's very hard to pick the right one confidently. So I would not look at the answer choices, come up with the answer in my head. And if the answer was there, click it, move on. Absolutely no questions asked. Now, if I read it and I could not come up with an answer and the answer choices I needed them, I would look at all of the answer choices. Didn't feel confident in it, then I would simply mark that question, choose my first instinct, and move on. And that instinct, guys, because at this point you had done everything you needed to prepare. So if an instinct, if you have an inclination saying that it's this answer, go with it. Now, marking your questions and going back is very important, but make sure that you choose the answer of the first instinct, because you don't want to run the risk of running out of time and leaving a question unanswered. You definitely do not want to leave any questions unanswered because it's a points game. It's about how many points you can acquire. Okay, so let's talk about the medicines way of doing UWorld to optimize that score. What I did during dedicated, at first I wanted to do everything random block, and I absolutely hated it because I was failing repeatedly. And by failing, I mean my low score was about a 42. A 42. I felt like I didn't know anything, and I knew that I needed to change it. So I spoke to one of my colleagues, and he suggested switching to subject-based. And the suggestion that he made absolute sense. During basic sciences, for me, we did subject-based. So why would I suddenly change that, especially since my exposure to mixed blocks was still happening once a week when I did my NBME exams? The medicine's way does include subject-based, and it does include taking notes. Now, hear me out. This is not notes like, oh my God, let me rewrite all of UWorld explanations in my own words. No, you simply jot down 1 sentence, maximum 2, on the things that you did not know, of the other answer choices that you did not know, things that were unfamiliar. Those are the things that you write down in 1 sentence in your own words. And here, you can see my cardio notes. It is only 1 page. These are the only things I found unfamiliar with cardio. I know I need to see these again, closer to my test date. Let's say 160 questions in HEMOC, which means it's going to take you 2 days because I did 120 each day. So I finished 120 the first day. And so after that first day of HEMOC, I'm reviewing the notes that I made on those 3 blocks that night. I'm going through them again, and I'm highlighting the things that when I looked at it again, I was like, whoa, I forgot this again. Highlight those. Don't need any gaps in your learning. So here comes the second day. You do the last 40 questions. Now what do? You review all of the HEMOC notes, including the other ones from all the previous sections that you have done. This is the medicine's way. This is what helped me because it was constantly reinforcing the things that I did not know. Do you know how important that was for me? Doing 120 questions a day for me was the easy part. It was the review of all 120 questions that got difficult. So if you had, again, we'll use the example, let's say you had 160 questions of UWorld in a particular subject. That second day was obviously going to be a lighter day, so you could probably squeeze in or leave some of your reviews for that next day. No, and UWorld is there. UWorld is designed to show you the things that you don't know, the things that you thought you knew well, and you really don't, because biochem, who really knows biochem at the end of the day? So you write those things down and you review them and you review them and you review them and you review them. Now, doing this method meant that I didn't really have to go into first aid that much, unless if I just wanted to know more about PCWP, then sure, I'll go ahead and look it up and look up that section. But UWorld was a beautiful tool that's technically all that you need during dedicated, if you have been through first aid at least once already. And now at the end of every night, what I did was I did deja review for that same section. So if I had done cardiology that day, I would get through some of the deja review. And let's say deja review for cardiology was about 30 pages, and it was going to take me 3 days to finish all of the cardiology questions in UWorld. So I would just do 10 pages of deja review every night of cardiology so that I would finish all 30 by the end. I hope that makes sense. You allowed me to interact with loved ones because they would simply just quiz me, and I felt like it was a more interactive Anki because I have never been a fan of Anki. I never did Anki throughout basic sciences, specifically because I just did not like having to do 10,000 cards that somebody else thought I needed to do. When you're doing your UWorld questions, and you finish cardiology and you see the next day there's 4 new ones or 3 new ones in respiratory, do not freak out, do not panic, and don't do them, because at the end I had about 14 questions and it was a nice little mini blog at the end of finishing everything. So let's do resources now. For dedicated, I had already done first aid 3 complete times. Dedicated, I knew that I did not need to do any more reading or do boards and beyond all over again, because I had done boards and beyond during my basic science. I mentioned YouTube and how I used it for public health sciences during my dedicated. So Pathoma I used during my basic sciences, of course. Now for dedicated, I did not choose to do Pathoma again simply because it is a very, very, very long resource, and I had already done it once, taken all of my detailed notes in first aid, and all I did was watch the first 3 chapters of Pathoma during my buffer days. Not broke, then don't try to fix it. Don't change what works for you because this is working for me. I'm just giving you these tips to help, or maybe you can add these tips in addition to what you already do, but do not just adopt the entire medicine's way. Closer to my exam date is when I did the 100 Concepts Anki deck. And then I also did the first aid equations. So I found a first aid rapid review deck online, downloaded it, and one of the decks within that master deck was something called the equations review. So I did the equations review in Anki style because it was only 35 cards. I needed to have those equations on demand for test day. Okay, so let's talk about the buffer days. You absolutely have to plan out buffer days. You allotted at the end of your dedicated period. I gave myself 2 weeks, and I could take one of those days throughout my dedicated period if I felt like I needed a break. At the end, I only had 10 left, so I had used 4 of my buffer days as breaks throughout dedicated. So I didn't plan any breaks during dedicated. I would study every single day, not knocking others that did it in a different way, but I simply cannot fathom finishing UWorld the day before my step exam, or even 5 days before my step exam. I needed those 10 days to regain my confidence again and to take the free 120 and to feel good. I needed those days because those days allowed me to escape that negative hole that I had gotten myself into with UWorld. I cannot imagine going through UWorld, getting something wrong, reading the explanation, and then never seeing it again. How is that supposed to go into long-term memory if you do not see it again, and if you do not see it over and over and over and over and over again? After being literally in an abusive relationship with UWorld, you're gonna need some time away from it. You're going to need a little break, some separation. You can't just finish UWorld the day before the exam and then take the exam the next day. Like, you're meant. During my buffer days, some of the various resources that I would use, I went through my hard topics, right? The sheet, the 15 pages, and I would use RX video. I would use RX videos, Physeo. I used one DIT video, Sketchy Farm, sketchy micro, and I would use YouTube videos. Now I only did YouTube videos for public health sciences and I saved that for the last day. That was the last thing I touched because I never mastered it. I didn't know public health sciences or epi. Take the free 120 closer to when your scheduled test date is, and that should be the most predictive score. Once you take the free 120 and you see the level of ease in the questions, I'm sure you'll be able to relax. And if that's not your experience and you feel like you're not ready, or if, for example, you failed the free 120, I would hate to say this, but in my honest opinion, I think that it would be best for you to postpone. Remember, readiness is hard to achieve. I don't know any of my friends that felt ready to take steps. And if you feel uncomfortable with your scores, feel free to postpone. Reach out to your school. In my personal experience, if you can pass the free 120 and you can get the score that you want in the free 120, by all means go ahead and sit for the exam. I feel like you need to postpone your exam, that is perfectly fine, but just keep in mind that you will never feel fully prepared for this exam. You will never know every single thing in first aid. Importantly, it is not a race. This is not a race at all. The finish line will come. If you do your due diligence and you pass your exams and you study right, the finish line will be near and you're closer to the finish line than when you started. So be proud of yourself. Personal one, this journey is about you. Your score is for you. So you need to just look at your grades and your grades only. And that's why I say the medicine's way is so beautiful, because if you give yourself those 2 weeks, so plan out the 2 weeks, plan out 10 days, plan out 6 days, plan out 5 days, however many buffer days you would like. Plan it out ahead of time, and then you open up UWorld, see how many questions you have per topic, and then you plan out how many days it'll take you to finish that topic. Okay, now the reason why I didn't actually schedule days off for myself and I only used one of my buffer days when I wanted to take a day off is because there will be days where your schedule will be lighter. If you use subject approach and you're doing 120 questions a day, then there will be days where you only have about 18 questions left for cardiology. So fill in that time with things that you love to do. So the breakdown of the exam is that you get 45 minutes. But there is an optional 15-minute tutorial at the beginning. So if you don't use that 15-minute tutorial, it's added to the 45 minutes, and now you have total an hour of break time. I took all of my breaks and go straight to the bathroom and empty out my bladder. And after I would do that, I would do about 5 or 6 squats while looking in the mirror and telling myself, oh, you got this, you know what I mean? I literally would walk in and just, you got this, oh, you got this, I believe in you, look at you, look at you behind that mask. Girl, you look good and you are smart, you are talented, we the best. It just sounded like DJ Khaled. Then I'd go to my locker, I would pull out my water bottle, take a couple sips, grab the granola bar and go outside. And I'd make sure that I was walking the entire break. I never sat down, I never took a second, I just kept it going, because you are sitting down during the exam, so the blood has gone, zoop. So you need to do that. Make sure you stay active during your breaks and you just pace back and forth. Everybody's there taking tests at the Prometric Center, so they're not gonna think you're a crazy person. What also helps for me to remember, people like to say the cliche, well, remember why you started. I say specifically, remember when you wanted to brag and boast to your friends and family. Remember that feeling you got when you got your acceptance letter into whatever medical school you went to. And along this journey, you've had moments where you just wanted to call your parents or your best friends or your lovers, the people in your life that support you. You wanted to call them and share those news with them, right? So you have to remember those moments. Celebrate your victories and to show yourself love and affection. You won't be able to make a call in the middle of the exam. So you need to learn how to celebrate your victories on your own. You need to learn how to pat yourself up and to pick yourself up, because this journey is going to be difficult. Okay, to cry. Most people think that when you cry, that means that you're weak or that maybe you're lazy and you're not built for this, but that's not what it is at all. The reason why that you're crying, the reason why that you find this so difficult is because the goal is so big. Remember when I got out of my test, I had felt, of course, the typical feelings of a huge weight, being lifted off. But the morning of my exam, I was just so calm. I was very calm and I was in a very good mood because I had done the mental work. I had prepared myself for this. And water, everything has water. Everything needs water. And I absolutely recommend drinking tons of water leading up to your exam so you're not dehydrated on a test day. I want to make sure that there's nothing else. best way to feel prepared is to do your questions and to emphasize on the things that you don't know. I think that that's all that I have to share, but I keep thinking of more wonderful tips because this exam is such a beast. I'm really going to sign off now because it is 1 a.m. and I have clinical rotations tomorrow. That will definitely be my next video. I would love for everybody to share their tips and strategies. If there's tips and strategies of mine that you personally want me to expand on, please comment, leave me some love, leave me some feedback. Surround yourself with people that are going through a similar journey. You have to make sure that you have a community of people. And if you need an accountability partner, here I am. Thank you so much for watching. Peace for now.